You're watching Extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Hi, I'm Holly Dickman with the Ellis County Extension Office, and today I'm here with Jim Strine, who is a member of the Hayes Beautification Committee here in Hayes, and he's also our former Northwest Area District Forester with the Kansas Forest Service, and we are going to be talking today about the importance of fall planting of trees. Fall is an excellent time to plant trees, and you know, we get towards the end of that growing season and people maybe don't think about things that they should be doing at this time of year. They kind of think maybe they're done with their yard work for the year, but this is a great time to plant trees. And Jim, what do you think about planting in the fall?
You're exactly right. Fall is a good time to plant trees. Normally when people think about planting trees, they just think about planting in the springtime. But to me, the latter part of September, about the last 2 weeks of September, or the first 2 weeks of October, is an excellent time for fall planting.
And you know, there are several trees that will do very well in our location here. However, we do need to be aware that some trees do not grow very well here. And so if you're wondering about that in the future, if you're looking to plant some trees this fall, make sure you check with your local extension office, your city parks departments about what trees are actually suitable for your growing conditions in your area. Here in the city of Hayes, I know Jim has something he wants to talk about with the Hayes Beautification Committee that can also be of assistance.
Yeah, there is financial assistance for people who live in the city of Hayes through the rebate program. You can get the brochure like this from the city office, from the Parks Department, and also it's online. And it goes into the details about the program, what trees are available, things like this.
One other thing I wanted to mention is that if you are questioning, you know, what would survive in a drought, we certainly have been under drought conditions for several years here in the area. And so this year we put together a list of drought-tolerant plants for Northwest Kansas. So this is a good place to start if you're looking for, you know, maybe a large shade tree that could tolerate some drought conditions. Not an all-inclusive list by any means, but it's a place to start. The other thing we want to talk about today, in addition to, you know, where do you find resources to find out what types of trees to plant, is actually the process of planting trees. It's really important to plant those trees properly to give them the best start.
It sure is. A lot of the tree problems comes right back to the planting procedure. And again, at the local extension offices, there's a lot of information on proper ways to plant trees. So get some information from there before you start planting a tree and get the tree off to a good start.
Okay, and just to show an example, we're standing next to a tree that's probably been planted in the last couple of years anyway. And one thing that I always like to, I guess, really enforce is the use of organic mulch. This is a nice example of a nice big ring of mulch around a newly planted tree. Mulch has a lot of great benefits. For one, it keeps that weed competition down around the trees. It helps keep that soil temperature cooler, or when we do get into some colder temperatures, it'll keep it warmer for a longer period of time. It'll also help retain moisture. So if we have some rain or you're out watering, you won't have to water as often, because that mulch will help insulate the soil and keep that moisture there.
It helps keep the weeds down.
Correct, yes, definitely helps with the weeds. And you know, we talk about using organic mulch because that also will break down over time, which is beneficial to the soil, keeps things cooler, versus some of those inorganic mulches like rock that we commonly see used around trees, which can be very harsh on the tree roots.
The rock tends to hold the heat. They heat up during the day, it holds the heat during the evening, and just makes it an unhealthy plant conditions, what it amounts to, Holly.
Right. Jim, do you want to talk about how to actually plant a tree a little bit, and we'll leave it there?
The main thing is don't plant it too deep. Over the years, we've found that people have been planting the trees too deep. You want to get the root flare or the root collar, the part where the trunk forms into the root system, right at the surface of the ground. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make. They think if they plant the tree deep, it's going to force the root system down. That's just not true.
Right, right, and that is a big mistake that I see commonly made. You want that tree to have that flare right there at the surface of the soil. So sometimes when you purchase those trees from the garden center or from the nursery, you actually have to find that uncover some soil there to find where that root system starts and make sure that's right at the surface of the soil. A lot of times you don't need to dig a really deep hole, but you have to dig a wider hole, at least 2 to 3 times as wide, and maybe a shallow hole essentially
Correct.
to get that tree where you need to have it as far as depth goes.
That's right.
So after you have a tree planted, you can certainly stake or guy the tree. These have been in the ground for a little while. They're not staked at all, which if you have a protected area, you might be able to get away with. But,
Right. But if it's windy, the trees do need to be staked. And the purpose of staking a tree is to hold the root system in place. You want the top part to move in the wind, but you don't want the root system to move.
Right, right. And one final thing to mention, I guess, is watering. You know, water is very important in our area here, and of course it should be, but there are certain ways to water a tree to help ensure its health, and one of those is just to make sure you're watering nice and deep. Soak that entire root ball or root area that you've just planted, and make sure you let it dry out some before you water again. So during the heat of summer when it's 100 degrees and windy, if you're watering that newly planted tree, say a tree this size, once a week, that's probably plenty as long as you're soaking it nice and deep.
Right.
So if you have any questions, and I don't know, Jim, do you have anything else to mention
not at
about
this
planting
time.
trees? But we certainly are available at the Extension office to answer questions about planting trees. Fall is an excellent time, once again, to plant trees, and just because those trees are starting to lose their leaves does not mean that the root system is not active. It's actually growing quite a bit during the fall, and so we want to make sure to let people know fall is a great time to plant, and if you have questions, please contact your local Extension office.
You're watching extras from the Extension on Eagle Community Television. This show is brought to you by Carico Implement.
Fall is almost here, and it's a great time to come out and visit Carico Implement in Hayes for all of your fall lawn care needs. We stock and sell a full line of John Deere riding lawn equipment, along with Honda walk-behind mowers and generators. We also offer a full lineup of Steel outdoor power products. If your project requires even more muscle, come check out the lineup of John Deere compact tractors and skid loaders. And don't forget, we have the parts and services to keep you up and running for whatever your fall lawn care needs are. So come and visit Carico Implement for a solution that fits.